Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest is one of my newer good friends, Krystal. Now, Krystal has so many great things going on. And before we dive into you being a licensed massage therapist and some of the grief work, to give a little teaser of what we'll talk about, did you know you always wanted to help people, Krystal, or what was your childhood like, if you feel comfortable telling us?
Yeah, so I feel like from a really young age, me being the oldest child, I always had to help with brothers and sisters. And just since I was really young, like it always made me uncomfortable when people were sad or didn't feel good. Like I always genuinely wanted to help people feel better. So I think that stemmed from like childhood. I don't know where or why, but everything that I wanted to be from the time I was in kindergarten revolved like helping people or animals or helping in some way, like wanting to be a teacher, then a marine biologist, then a veterinarian, then a nurse, and now a massage therapist. So yeah, I always thought when I was older that I would do something to help people. I didn't know what, but I didn't know that it would be massage therapy either. So you don't want to be a massage therapist when you're 5. So
no. Yeah, same thing. You don't want to be a resume writer. I didn't even know what that was, right? That's so funny. Now, what made you decide? Because I know you've said before you went to nursing school and everything like that, but what ultimately made you decide to go the massage therapy route?
It was always like weird, like signs from the universe or something. Like I had a couple of friends after high school that went to do massage school, and one of them, I was her guinea pig. Like she needed someone to practice on, and I think that was my first massage. So I was like 18 years old, out of high school, never had a massage, didn't know anything about massage. I just like I knew it helped people feel better, but I also felt like that was something that like people did that had money to do massages. Like I totally never thought that was like a self-care thing at that point in my life. So when my friend gave me a massage, I was like, oh my God, how did I not ever have a massage? Like, how did I not know this? And after that, I was just intrigued, like how I felt after. I've always been interested in like the body and anatomy and how things work. So when I was on her table feeling like, oh, what muscle is she working? Oh, that I feel this in, a totally different part of my body when you put pressure. So it was like super intriguing to me at the time. And then I had another friend go to massage school, and that like same thing, was guinea pig. And I was like, oh, there's something to this. Like, this is interesting. I could still help people. So it just kept coming around. And I had come back from living in Arizona back in 2012. And even then I was kind of thinking like going to like aesthetic school and just doing like facials and waxing and all that stuff. And I kept getting like the massage school emails, like massage program starts this time, this day. And I always had people tell me like when I like rub people's back or rub people's like scalp or whatever, like, oh, you should be a massage therapist. You have really good hands. And at the time when you're like young, you're 18, 19 years old, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay. But as I got older, I started feeling like maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Everything just kind of kept leading me back. So when I came back home from Arizona and I had to start over, I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. And I had previously worked in the veterinary field for 12 years, and I was really close to going to vet tech school. But I was so burned out from that field at that time that I said, I don't want to do that anymore. Like I need something different. And again, massage school came. I don't remember how I found the school or how it happened, but there was a massage school for the school that I went to. They had like a commercial on the radio, and it was like massage program. And at that point, it just clicked, like, you should figure this out. Like, go to see what they say about this program. And I went to the school. I did all the financial aid stuff. And within like 2 months, I was enrolled in this massage program. And it just felt right at that time. And it's, almost 11 years later, I'm still doing it. So
wow, that's incredible. And something I want to call out that you said is that you always thought massage was expensive. And I actually had the same connotation myself, because I was like my mid-20s. I think when I got my first one, it was for a fundraiser. So I was like, all right, like I can condone spending that kind of money. But then I was like, oh, wait, this is actually like not too bad. I mean, there are the places that spend an arm and a leg, but you can get it very reasonable. And as someone who has been a client of yours, that girl, you do have some magical hands there.
Thank you.
It's so interesting too, because like it's vulnerable. I mean, you're under a sheet and everything, but like, first of all, the space you do it in is open. You're not like crammed over, like tuck your shoes under the table. And
right.
I feel like I have to dance around. But how do you kind of treat massage differently, or how do you kind of like cultivate this very relaxing yet open environment with clients?
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with just making someone feel comfortable and welcome, because like you said, it's a vulnerable experience. And if it's someone who this is their first massage, they don't know what to expect, making them feel welcome for one and comfortable, and letting them know, like explaining to them what is going to be going on or what they're going to experience. Kind of like, if someone has anxiety like me, if I don't know what's going to happen, I'm kind of like, oh God, like I can't enjoy it as much when I don't really, like I'm thinking too much about what's about to happen. So if I have someone that's seeming overly anxious or just uncomfortable, I straight up ask them, do you have any questions? Is there anything you're uncomfortable with? Because most of the time they just don't know. They don't know what to expect. I'm sure they've heard at that point, oh, it's got to hurt or it's going to feel this. So I'm sure they're already thinking like, oh, I'm waiting for it to hurt, or I'm waiting for this. Or if it doesn't hurt, maybe it's me, maybe it's my therapist. So I always let them know, like, you can ask questions and check in with me if anything's uncomfortable, and just let them know this is their session. They're here for a reason, and it's my job to make them feel better and walk out like feeling like they got what they needed out of that session, whether it's pain management, whether it's relaxation, or just to feel good and treat yourself.
Or all of the above.
Right.
Because it's so funny, when I walked out of the first one with you, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I could go take a nap as a highly anxious girly with lots of things there. So
yeah.
It's interesting because I think it's fun. Like, it's fun. And some people give me crap all the time. They're like, you talk through the whole time. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like, why not? Like, I love to chat.
Yeah. And if that's what helps you relax, and that's the thing, like, you have to read your clients. Like, if someone comes in and they're like chatty, if that's what makes them feel comfortable through their session, like, I'll, casually have the conversation, make them feel comfortable. But at the same time, like, check in and be like, how's the pressure? What do you feel? Like, how does this feel in your, shoulder that you were complaining about? How's the pain level? So still like incorporate their symptoms in the session. But if they're comfortable talking, that's not always an issue. But then if they're like stressing to you, like, I just need a break, I'm stressed to the max, I got this, I got that, and they clearly look like they're high strung and need to just calm down. Like, at that point, I'm not going to chat with them. I'm just going to let them like do breathing exercises, take a deep breath, and just enjoy your massage. Because, you will get people that will be chatty in the first 5 minutes and then be like, okay, they're quiet, they're getting relaxed, that's what they need. And then my job at that point is to just focus on them. So yeah, it's whatever is comfortable for them. And it's like, this field, you have to be in tune with people's emotions and be able to read people, and not just your hands on their body, but like emotionally. And sometimes that can be kind of taxing for the therapist too, because you have people telling you their problems and their lives. And then, they're telling you, they've been through a divorce, they just lost the, spouse or whatever. And you can feel all of this in their body manifesting. So things make sense the more you let them talk. But then sometimes, if they're like not talking, you gotta let them relax too, but let them know, like, hey, I'm here. I gotta know that I'm helping you. Is this pressure okay? But usually it's just reading the room at that point.
And it's a skill we think, should come easy, but it doesn't to all. And a lot of people are not good at reading the room. So I think that's great. And you really like curated a process that's comfortable. And I felt like I was just floating on a cloud after.
Oh, yay.
Even my partner was like, okay, you got to get whatever's in your neck out, because this is just a fat ball of stress here. So, and he has no massage therapy background, let's be clear. But as you're dipping into this, because I want to talk about the grief work you're doing. So on that note, where you talk about, people going through losses, or you see the tension built up in their bodies, and I want you to talk about it. I don't want to steal the light, but how did you get this idea to do grief work through massage, and what you're doing currently or in the works about?
Yeah, so I'm excited to actually let the cat out of the bag a little bit on that one. 10 years into my career now, massage is kind of taxing on the body, doing deep tissue work. So my body hurts. So I was trying to, at the time, look at scaling back a little bit and work smarter, not harder. Because I've been working hard for quite some time now. So I was looking at different modalities that I could take more classes in to like kind of niche myself out a little bit and do more things that I like doing, and not necessarily to take on any massage client just to fill my books, because sometimes, you're creating more work for yourself at that point. So it was a combination of just wanting to kind of take it easier on my body and give myself a little bit more longevity in my career. But also last year I had just actually between the whole end of 2019 and 2020, I had experienced significant loss in a short time. I had lost a grandmother, a cousin, an aunt, 2 grandfathers. So like my 3 last remaining grandparents, all within a couple of months of each other in 2020 and 2019, then a cousin and an aunt. And then our family dog got put down and a friend of mine passed away. So it was like that short amount of time, I had extreme amounts of loss. And in between, I wasn't able to grieve those losses in the ways that I felt I should have been. And in March of last year, 2023, I had to put my dog of 12 years. She had been with me through as a puppy from the time I lived in Arizona, and I had a failed relationship and had to move back home. So she had been with me through a lot of stuff. And she was the only constant in my life for 12 years of my adult life. She got diagnosed with cancer in December of 2022. So we were expecting, they gave us the prognosis was 6 months to, a year. She had progressed quickly within that 3 months. So within that 3 months, she progressed quickly and we had to put her down unexpectedly. And that loss, I knew was going to be hard. But in that moment, like the things that I felt when I had watched my dog take her last breath was some like hard stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I lost family members, like humans. Why am I crying like this over my dog? Like I loved her, but that was an extreme loss. And like I took a week off of work and I just went through so many different emotions. And I had started reading a lot about grief and, books about grief and pet loss. And this whole different world opened up to me, like about grief and not just the grief that we all think there's no blanket for grief. Like there's no one size fits all when it comes to grief. So when I say grief, most people are thinking universal, like, oh, you lost a spouse, a parent, a brother, sister, whatever. There's a whole other umbrella, which a therapist that wrote this book of grief that I was reading, it's called unconventional or disenfranchised grief, which is grief that is not commonly recognized for people to like feel feelings of grief or, just to grieve in general. So with that unconventional grief, it could be pet loss, the loss of a pregnancy, the loss of the ability to have children, an opportunity in life you never got. Like some women I know, like just like myself, never experienced motherhood, like naturally, like just never had kids. It never worked out. So there was a point in my life where like I was grieving the loss of my dog and the loss of like my family members and everybody that had passed within those few years. Also the fact that I never had children. Like, so that was something that I was grieving and I didn't know that that was even possible to grieve something like that. So, and it could be you're grieving the loss of a job or a marriage or just like shedding a skin, like an old lifestyle or an old like part of life that doesn't exist anymore, the person you were 5 years ago. Like there's so many different things that a person can grieve and not know that they're grieving something, and the way grief manifests in the body and physically how you feel. And so it's just this whole other animal to take on and learn, and it's really interesting. So in that time I was looking at, well, like, how do I work with this? Like, I want to help people in some way that are going through what I'm going through and don't necessarily have the means to like deal with it in a healthy way, or people that are silently struggling and they don't necessarily understand why they're feeling this way, or, because I feel like sometimes people are like, what's wrong with me? I should be over this by now. And we hear that so much from people like, oh, get over it. That's life. But those feelings are still valid. Like those feelings are coming from a place inside of you, and you have to deal with them and let those feelings flow and pass through you, or they manifest in you and you carry all of that like stress, So at that point I had gotten a massage friend of ours, learned everything that I was going through at that point with just grief in general. And that point in my life was a rough time because I had all these feelings of unresolved grief and I didn't know what to do with them. And I just felt like crap all the time. Like I was always crying and always, like I didn't understand what was happening to me at the time. So she sent me this class on grief massage. And I was like, there's a grief massage? Like, what is that? Like, I'd never heard of that. I didn't know it existed. And I looked into it, and it's so rare to find someone who does that type of work. So I put it off and put it off. And finally, like 2 months ago, I said, maybe this is a reason like I'm being presented with this class. Like she sent me this for a reason. It keeps coming up in my mind. I'm trying to work in a different route through massage here. I'm trying to help people in a different way. I took the class in March and I learned so much. It was so much more than I thought. Like there's so much information into like the psychological aspect of grief and how grief manifests in, the body, where it stems from in our brain. And that's a whole other topic for a whole other podcast episode. But I walked away from that class like, oh my God, this is something no one offers, at least not near us, like nowhere near where we're at. And people don't even know it exists. Like I've mentioned it to therapists, like clinical therapists, and they're like, what? There's a grief massage. Tell me. So like, I was like, I have to figure out how to make this work. And so I started a little bit of a treatment plan to figure out how can I put this together as a service? How can I offer this to people that are going through grief and don't even necessarily, like they need a massage, but not necessarily to work out the like kinks in their neck and back and shoulders and all that, but something that's nurturing and comforting and that allows them to just kind of get out of their body and feel their emotions without feeling like you have to go back to work or you have to go back to being a mom or this or that, and just like take the time for you to get through what you're going through. So that's really how I got into it. I started practicing the session that I put together on my therapy friends and thought, well, hey, like if this is something that you feel is beneficial, maybe you can refer your clients to me and I can refer people to you as like their mental health care and just working almost like a community working together for people that need grief services because it's so underutilized. Like we don't have a lot of services for like grief specialties. And like you can go to a therapist. Like me personally, when I was struggling with my grief, I was going to a therapist regularly and talking, but I still felt that grief like stuck. Like I couldn't work past that. So talk therapy didn't work for my grief. It gave me tools to kind of move past it, but I didn't know how to like deal with it and necessarily let it like experience that, because grief is uncomfortable and people don't like feeling uncomfortable. But those feelings need to be acknowledged and they need to be felt and work themselves out so they're not manifesting in our bodies and holding us down and just making us feel like crap. So I took this class and I put a little treatment plan together to customize for each person, because grief, like we said, it's not linear. It's not one size fits all. So everyone's on a different journey. So I figured out a way to make a plan customizable so that every person that walks through my door for a grief session is getting something that is catered to them specifically. So they can't leave and say, oh, I got the same thing, or I got this from, I went in for this and I got the same exact service. So every service for grief is going to be a little bit different. And I felt like I was onto something when the first 3 people that I practiced on who were practicing like professionals in mental health professions were like, oh my God, that was amazing that I got this, or I felt this. I think this is going to be really helpful for people. And then I started feeling overwhelmed, like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like, I feel like I put myself in a position that I'm not prepared for. Like, this could be a really big thing and I don't know what I'm doing, But I feel like this is something, the more close I get to like unveiling it and putting out there for people to book and working with people on their grief journey, this is something that is so needed for so many people. And it's so new and intriguing. And a lot of people are like, oh, tell me more about this grief service and this grief massage. So I'm excited about that. But it taught me a lot about my own grief journey and how I've been like dealing with things in not a healthy way, but it's also like you learn a lot about how as a society we've been conditioned to just like feel the least amount that we need to feel to be able to function every day. And that is not healthy. And learning all of this, you learn about the nervous system and how grief and stress and all of these things impact the nervous system. And when your nervous system is dysregulated, you can do all the yoga, journaling, juice cleanses that you want, whatever you're trying to do. But if your nervous system is dysregulated, none of that's going to help it. So this service is really tapping into the nervous system and getting it to like relax and get all those feelings flowing through you, because stuff has to come out. So that's basically what got me into this. So it all started on my own grief journey. And I discovered that this is something that like I know I needed for myself. So in doing that for myself, I'm able to experience what other people have gone through and help them with their experiences through what I learned on my journey. So I feel like that is something that a lot of people can relate to, with someone who personally has gone through something and found a way to help themselves and other people through it.
It's interesting too, because yes, you could go to therapy, you can do all the right things. And I think I shared this with you, but I love my birthday. I just turned 30, as you know, and I was going through it and I don't know why. And then I thought about it. I'm like, oh, my cousin died 6 years ago now at 30. And I didn't realize like that trauma was, and it was devastating. And you don't realize like when that trauma is creeping up or what's going to trigger it, or a song or a smell or something someone says, a story. But
exactly.
Something we had talked about, I talked about it with you, or maybe I talked about it with my therapist, but like I come from a family that's very comfortable to talk about loss and grief and death, and unfortunately have been exposed to it at such a young age, but now we can make our dark humor jokes and we feel comfortable with it. But so many people are still at the point like, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. It's like, that's the one thing we all are promised in life. Like, that is the one thing. So
yeah,
I have such admiration for what you're doing, and this is needed. I mean, I know it's that sinking feeling of just feeling empty, of just like, there's nothing left to cry. There's nothing left, to give up. And it's just like, and whether that is a dog, an animal, a friend, a job, or whatever. I mean, I've been fired from a job. I've lost our family pet. I've lost, partners I thought were going to be around forever, friends, family, whatever. Like, grief is not just one person. It can be multiple things. So
exactly.
I love this. I love what you're doing. So, and I know this is a loaded question, but where do you hope to take this, or who do you ideally want to help? I mean, what are we looking at?
Ideally, I want to help everybody, because that's how massage therapists are. We want to help everybody. I genuinely do want to help all of those who are struggling through a loss, a traumatic experience, and they feel like they just can't move past it, or they don't have the tools that they need. Whether they're getting grief sessions from me, or, going through a therapist. The plan that I have with this session that I'm going to be doing is to not just have them get on my table, feel what they feel, and like send them on their way. I want to have like an intimate place for them where they feel comfortable, like, because massages are already a vulnerable setting, especially when it's someone's first time coming to you. They don't know you. They're half naked on your table. You're touching them. It can be, a really vulnerable personal experience for someone, and add grief and all kinds of uncomfortable emotions to it already. So that can make people really uncomfortable. So before they even come in, I want to have a consultation with them when they have the appointment set, just to let them know, like, it kind of gives me an idea too, how to cater where they're at in their journey, like what kind of loss they suffered, what is their biggest struggle at that moment with their grief? What are they hoping to accomplish from the session? And just kind of get that relationship started with them before they even get into my room and on my table, so that they feel comfortable when they walk in the door. And then, after they're done with their session, touching base with them and asking, like, I'm here for you. What did you experience? How do you feel about what you just experienced? And then give them a handout or, a paper. I have a list of resources from mental health professional friends, clients of mine that have their own therapy clinics. They gave me some resources about mental health facilities and people that specialize in grief, where people can go and get help if they need to. So they're not just coming to me to, get a little bit of a nurturing touch and feel better and go on with their day. They're getting resources. So like, if this is something beyond what I can do for you here on my table, these are professionals that can help you in other ways that I can't. And just let them know, like, it's not just them coming in, getting touched and walking out. They're getting a whole list of resources that they can go use, or people they can talk to in the event that they can't always come get a grief massage or a massage in general. So that's what I'm hoping. And eventually I want to have like maybe a nonprofit or something for, a group of, like, because not everyone has the means to pay for services like this. And starting out, I would like to have a sliding scale so that people who can't necessarily shell out the money. We all know insurance doesn't cover things like this, so it should.
Anything good.
It should. But so those people who are, limited means of being able to get these kind of services, I want to be able to reach out to those people, because sometimes those are the people that need them the most, or the people that are in these underprivileged areas who don't have a lot of money, who don't get the best care anyway because they just don't have the resources or the money. So those are the people that I really want to help and get them in to experience this and let them know, like, you don't have to suffer because you can't afford it or you don't have good health insurance, or, like, nobody should have to suffer in ways like that. So I really want to go through with a sliding scale so that people can still afford it, and also give them resources where not just for me, but for, therapists that they can go to, or there's other resources out there for them to go, so they don't feel alone when they're home at night and they can't just call up and get a massage or go to see a therapist. So there's a lot out there that is so underutilized for people to use these services. So eventually I would like to do like a nonprofit for something like that and get people massage and wellness care that they need for because it's so crucial. Like, massage definitely plays a role in your well-being, mind, body, and soul, and it can prevent so many diseases. And to me, I feel like it's preventative care. We've had so many clients just say, I quit this medication and I don't need it anymore. I'm just going to come see you. And this is not me. Disclaimer, this is not me saying, don't take your medicine, stop seeing your doctor. Before I get all those comments, this is not me anti-medicine.
Right. Correct.
But when I went to massage school, it was thought of as a luxury. You go when you treat yourself. You get massages when you have the money or to treat yourself for your birthday. But being in the field as long as I have, starting out with chiropractors and seeing the benefit in a clinical sense, how massage can help people recover from with mental issues, physical issues, so many things across the board that massage has been proven to help with. So grief is definitely one of those things that massage can really help people, even trauma, people going through trauma and recovering from trauma. It's so powerful. And I think the grief sessions are really going to help a lot of people.
Oh my God, they so will. Now, as we wrap this up, what advice do you have for listeners?
So there's two things I'm going to leave with. For anyone looking to start a business or go out on your own, if you have something that interests you or a special skill and you are looking to maybe start a business, you just don't know how to get there, follow your heart. Find your connections, your people with the connections. If you have friends in high places, utilize those people to help you. I mean, I wouldn't be here without Jessica. So she gave me an opportunity to work through her business on my own. And now I'm branching out and doing my own things. There's always a place to start, but start with what you can and build up. But that, I'm going to say, always follow your heart, be true to yourself, and be true to doing what's good for your mental and physical health, whether it's coming to get a massage, whether it's journaling or getting outside for walks or just meditating and being by yourself for 5 to 10 minutes, whatever piece you can get, take it, because we only get one life and you better make the best of it and feel the best that you can while you're in that life. And that's something I've learned the hard way.
Oh, so true. Krystal, you have been amazing. If you're listening to this and you want to work with Krystal, go to the show notes. Please check her out. I will say this till I'm blue in the face. She is the absolute best.
Thank you.
Tune in again every Tuesday for another episode of That's Business.
If you're looking for a career change and you're not sure where to start, the Resume Rescue can help. Sure, there's no such thing as the perfect fit for everyone, but here at the Resume Rescue, we're on a mission to find the perfect solution for you. Whether it's changing careers, updating a resume, learning LinkedIn, or practicing interviewing, we have you covered. Find us online at theresumerescue.com and find all of our contact info in our show notes.